Let's get back to January 6th.
Oh, yeah.
So you attend January 6th.
Yeah.
What do you do there?
So we're there. We went to the rally, and he was speaking and everything. And then we start walking. After he was like, "Now, patriotically, and peacefully, go here, let your voices be heard." So
That's the tweet.
yeah, that's what he said, and he said it there too. So we're leaving, and we're marching, and the friend and I, who I was there with a young lady, and we're talking to people, we're laughing, having a good time. We go back to the hotel, which is the Marriott right by the Freedom Plaza, which is about 20-some minute walk from where we were, because we were by the Washington Monument. So we go to the hotel, and we're, it's because it was cold out, and like at this point, from Beverly Hills rallies all the way here, I'm like, okay, I've done rallies. I'm not gonna just stand out there with a sign anymore. I'm good. I got it. Right? I was here. I did my part by showing up. And so I turned on the TV, and I was like, I was curious to see how the other side like presents what I just experienced as a warm, beautiful time. Of course, then, I didn't know any of the stuff was going down, but they're like, it's a somber moment, and there was blood on the ground, and the cops are trying to figure this out. It's like, she's lying, MSNBC, lying. I'm like, I'm going to go find that camera person, stand behind the reporter, and be like, no, that was my intent to go down there. So I start walking down from the hotel to the Capitol is about a half hour, about 35-minute walk. I'm walking down, seeing people meandering back. No one's like, yo, nothing. Everyone's just do. Mind you, this was the third time I was in DC for a Trump or Republican event. I went to a Blexit event before, then I went to another Trump rally after that, and then now this is my third time. Every single time, everyone's just chilling. Everyone's just like, smiles, felt good. So I get closer, and as I'm walking, I was like, is it done? Everyone leaving? They're like, no, there's still people there. I was like, okay, let's keep walking. Actually bump into some friends from the Beverly Hills rally. We're like, oh, what's up? And we do an interview. This lady recognized us. I'm like, hey, can we interview? Like, great. By the end of the interview, they start singing the national anthem, and we're standing close to the scaffold where the American flag was hanging over. We start singing the national anthem. Then we're like, oh, let's walk up the scaffold and just kind of like see what's going on. That's really what it was. Let's see what's up. As we're walking up on the scaffold, I like kind of look down, and people were like, I'll never forget this because it happened in Beverly Hills too, where they had this one guy grab two men, or he was like, let's go, and push the men forward. You're a man, I'm a man. Men don't do that. Real men don't do that. You say, let's go and follow me, as Jesus did. So that I noted that because in Beverly Hills, we had Antifa come show up one week, and then a few weeks later, they were dressed in all black and debating us. A few weeks later, the cops had put partitions up, and I saw a lot of those same Antifa dressed up in Trump outfits, dressed up in like pro-America, pro-Trump shirts on our side. And when a big Antifa group came with their, bike helmets and elbow guards and their big their poles and everything that came over on the other side, people were standing there screaming at them. Those guys who were Antifa, they were screaming at them too, getting our side riled up. I was like, and so when I saw that guy try to push, I'm like, I recognize that. You're trying to get people riled up for a reason. What are you doing? At that time in Beverly Hills, I got a microphone. I was like, we're not here for this. We got kids. We got old people. We got women here. Let's get out of here. Let's go on our march. That's all we're here to do. We're not here to fight people, like not in T-shirts. Like, that's crazy. And so I saw that. Somebody threw like the bear spray canister bag. It hit one of the cops in the head. And he was like, and they like backed it up. I'm like, okay. And I kept walking up. I started smelling the pepper spray. It was like kind of faint, like it had been there, but it was gone. Then I'm walking around, and people just walking, just kind of moving around. Saw there was a line of cops still on the top level, but they were just standing there, not doing anything, kind of more like arm to arm like this. I walk around recording. I get to the doorway. There's a doorway over there. Somebody's like, hey, they're letting us in over here. So I'm like, all right, let me go see. So we're kind of shuffling in like you're going to a concert or a football game or something. And we're shuffling in, and we kind of get stopped at the doorway. And I'm like, so I kind of maneuver myself through, and I kind of want to see what's going on here. And there are cops on this side here, cops. And they kind of were like, you can't go forward, but they didn't say anything. They were just standing there. So we weren't going forward. And then as I was getting a little closer in, one guy came up in all riot gear. He's like, we need you guys to go back that way. I was like, all right, sir. You see, we're being reasonable. Some guys talked to him here. I was like, sir, we're being reasonable. We're going to get people out of here, man. We're going to get it done. Hey, guys, go back the other way.
And you got this on tape.
All of this is on tape. All of this. me recording it and someone else recording me doing all this stuff. I didn't know the other guy that footage was out until, shout out to Dave Summerall with StopHate.com, because they've been on top of all this footage from J6. So I turned and left. I walked out, walked around the side. I walked to the window where they broke in, and I'm like, whoa, and I had the stickers up. And I saw that cop that got hit in the head. And on my video, I go, hey, man, I saw him get hit you in the head, man. You okay? That wasn't cool. He's like, and then I started joking with him a little bit. I turn and walk away, and those cops that were lined up earlier, I went and talked to them. I was like, guys, you guys are hiding behind masks. Like, people are just upset. Like, they just want to be heard. Why aren't we just talking? I was like, they're hiding. I was like, I'm not hiding. My name's Siaka Massaquoi. I'm not hiding. I said my name and everything. Turned, walked out, was going to walk to leave, and I walk kind of towards the front of where the Capitol is. I see like people trying to scuffle with these cops who were standing there. A big dude comes and throws like the Trump supporter, the guy's dressed up in Trump outfits. He throws him out of the way, gets the cop, and he throws him towards the cops, like, cut it out, right? And I'm like, all right. So I was like, all right, that's it. I'll leave. Started heading home, and I looked to the hotel, and I looked to the side and saw the cars there, and I chuckled, laughing. And I turned to somebody walking. I go, man, if this was a BLM ride, those cars would be on fire. And everyone starts laughing, and just went back to home. Honestly didn't think anything of it. I also, when I was leaving, and this is important because it's in my file, as I'm leaving, I started to record. I wrote the first thing to my mom, I'm like, Mom, don't believe whatever they tell you. It's a lie. They're setting it up for a lie. Don't believe it. Second thing on Instagram, I was doing a video, and I was like, they're sitting there stopping us from walking in. Like, this is the people's house, this, that, and the other. So my assumption was we're allowed to be there, that the cops were stopping us. That was it. And I was trying to be online and be vocal and be very in your face about being there, so that they wouldn't try to say that I was trying to plan something or do anything. Because I thought it was just like, look, I'm here. You're not going to say I did anything wrong. Like, I'm right here to see exactly what I did. I'm not wearing any riot gear or nothing. I had a t-shirt with like jacket and, because it was cold, and scarf and all that. So when I get home, then they start raiding people. They started arresting people, and I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. And I'm like, well, at least all I did was step in the doorway. I didn't do much else, right? Fast forward to June 10th of 21, and 5:45 in the morning, I'm hearing FBI, FBI. I'm like, what? And at this point, I have 4-bedroom, and my best friend of 7, as we know since we were 17, I'm godfather to his sons at this point. At this time, they're 3 and 6. From the story he tells me, he's going to the bathroom that morning. He hears a bang on the door while they're sleeping, so he goes over, sees the guns, and he just puts his hands out. They grab him, boom, put him against the wall. Guns to the back of his head and everything to cuff him up. The boys, his room, their window opens out right to the front door, so they're watching this happen to their dad. Then they open up, and I had a couple in the front room there. It was like he's on this side, had a couple over here. They get them, and now I'm hearing FBI, FBI. I'm like, what? And then I think, you got to be kidding me. I'm like, there's no way. In my head, I'm like, there's no way they're coming after me like this. I open the door. For some reason, too, God told me to wear sweatpants that night. Usually I'm in underwear. And he told me to wear sweatpants. I put sweatpants on. I had no shoes, no shirt. I opened the door. Man, 2 agents turn ARs. FBI, hands in the air. I'm like, whoa, just don't shoot my dog. Because my dog's like tripping out. They're like, friendly dog, friendly dog. And she runs through the house. Grab me. What is this about? It's January 6th. I want to talk to my lawyer. This is now, okay, in a second when we clear the house. I want to see the warrant. When we clear the house. I'm like, I know it. And then the guy's cuffed me up. He's taking me outside, the head agent, Chad Warren. He's taking me outside, and he's like, I'm like, I need to see the warrant. I want to talk to my lawyer. He's like, this is not an arrest, so it's okay. It's not that type of thing.
That's what the agent told you.
That's what the agent told me. And I'm like, okay, I want to see the warrant. Wait till we clear the house. Okay, so now they take me outside my house, outside my front gate, have me just, my chest against the little brick that the gate slides to, right? So I'm just standing there, cars all up and down the street. The only person that I knew that I could see was Bryson, the 8-year-old, or the 3-year-old, that they grab and they put it in the car. That's the only person I saw. I'm just like, what the heck's going on? I go back in the house, finally let me back in. They start to grab the stuff they were there for. The agents take me outside to let everyone, like my buddy could take the kids to their moms, and my other roommates who were moving out anyway could take the dog and go hang out for a while. So they're talking to me, and they're trying to question me, and they're asking me they're like, well, on Telegram, they had mentioned, this group you're in had mentioned carrying guns over state lines. Did you hear anything about that? I'm like, bro, have you been on Telegram? He's like, yeah. I'm like, if you miss one day and get back on there, like 5,000 messages. I don't got time to read all that stuff. So no, I didn't see anything like that. He's like, okay, just so you know, those guys were indicted today. I was like, whoa. He goes, the things you should have saw them doing there. I'm like, look, from how I know them, I don't know them as those guys. I know them as really sweet guys. If they did something in there, I have no idea about that. But from who I know, they seem like sweet guys. That's it. Then he's like, and I'm talking about how this isn't America, the fact that they're coming in here to somebody's home like this. I'm getting emotional. And by the end, they're like, finally give me the warrant. They gave me just the front page. Meaning they didn't give me the full description of the complaint you're supposed to have in a warrant and why and what they're there to get.
Mm-hmm.
On my dining room table, they just have all my stuff. They have my computer, my cell phone. They have some AA journals that I had. They have like some flash drives. And they took 2 of my MAGA hats.
Even the MAGA hats?
Even the MAGA hats. I was like, dude, let me get my hats, man. It was like, one of them was the first one I ever got in that August of 2020. He's like, oh, no, it's evidence because we saw you on CCTV wearing one. I'm like, wow. And so I got in contact with a lawyer afterwards. And he emailed them requesting the full warrant. The U.S. attorney's response was, your client doesn't deserve to know as of yet why we came. I have the email still. Said I didn't deserve to know why the government came into my home, guns drawn, and took my stuff. That's what they told me. And it was only when we said we will file a complaint that a week later, oh, here you go. Because we threatened to file a complaint. Like, that's how they were moving. So then we can fast forward. At this point, every time I fly, I have to go through extra security just to check who I am to get my ticket. Then I have to go to TSA. They search me up and down. They search my stuff in and out. Then when I get to the gate, they search me again. So I have to sit there and get searched 2 times when I'm going in there just to get on the plane. Now, let's say I have to hop on another flight, like I have to do a changeover. When I do that changeover, I get searched again. It's been going on now for 3 years.
Because you're in the system.
Because I'm in the system. And then they arrest me on January 30 or on November 30th. Turn around and guess what the charges were? So for raiding my house, holding my stuff for 2 years, me getting harassed at every time I fly, they came back with 4 misdemeanors, process crimes. Misdemeanors. Something they could give $50 ticket. Here you go. See you later. You're done. Don't do it again.
Like what?
They gave me no, and 3 of them are knowing elements. Like I knew what I was doing was wrong. So knowingly trespassing in the Capitol in a restricted area, disorderly conduct in the Capitol, disorderly conduct in a restricted, and parading. I stood in that doorway for 71 seconds, and when told to leave, I left. That's parading? I got there and was in front of multiple police officers. No one told me to leave. I knowingly trespassed? There were no signs anywhere. But they waited and did 2 separate operations on me for misdemeanors. But I'm told at FBI training when they're going to Quantico, they're told not to. We don't even deal with misdemeanors. All of a sudden they do now. So everything they're doing, the whole move they've done against me and many others has been completely unconstitutional. Completely. And that's where we sit right now. And so now, we're fighting this in court.
In 2021, so I'm from Lithuania. That's foreign USSR country. Yeah. My native language is Russian, but I speak Russian and Lithuanian as well. That's because we were in Soviet Union.
Right. You have to know both. Russian.
Yeah. So you like it?
Great. That's great. Good job.
So I speak Russian and I watch a lot of YouTube videos on Russian, etc. So I know what's going on in Russia. So in 2021, Alexei Navalny comes back to Russia from Germany where he was in the hospital. Mm-hmm. Once he gets to Russia, he gets arrested, and now in the following 2 to 3 days, there were a lot of people went to the streets, protesting. Mm-hmm. After that, in the meantime, a lot of people were arrested, and afterwards, a few months later, 2, 3, 4, 6 months later, people got this notes from the police: you gotta get in. You got to go to the police because of this, and that. And they were charged with some misdemeanor as well. Right, yeah. 6 months later, etc. So that's the same thing that happened after January 6th. Yep. And they say that Russia is ruled by a tyrant, which is true. Yeah. But you do the same thing here in the U.S.
Exactly.
That's
They
an
do
upside.
lawfare.
That's an upside world.
Yeah, but it's what the left has been trying to do, and the Uniparty has been trying to do for a long time.
Do you think they tried just to scare people?
Yeah, it is both. It's punishment too, because the punishment is the process. There's so many people, about 1,100 to close to 1,200, have either pled guilty or been found guilty. Part of the reason why is because who has an extra $70 to $100,000 to defend yourself for misdemeanors?
How much?
$100 to $100,000+. Right now, I've spent probably about $150,000 since I've been arrested just for my case.
Why it's so expensive?
Because it's the government, and you're going an uphill battle against the government. And these lawyers know, they're like, well, this is just what's going to cost to do this. And so that's the punishment.
But if you win, you're going to get your money back?
No, you don't get money back. You just, if you win, if I get all the charges, dropped, then I at outside have a chance to go, for civil lawsuit against them. But no, you're just fighting. You're fighting for your name. And what they do is, these people who, like, if they came and they got you, do you have an extra $100,000 to defend yourself against whatever they say you did? Or do they go, look, man, we'll just say you did this thing, and then we'll recommend to the judge that you don't spend prison time, but this is what it can come with, just so you know, but we'll recommend less. Like, okay. But a lot of the judges, especially early on, even if the DA says, hey, little no jail time, great. 1 year in jail, $1,000 fine. But 5 years probation. You're like, what?
But if you don't get any time in jail, you're a convicted felon.
If you're convicted, if you're convicted of crime, yeah. So that's part of it. All that stuff is to go, don't you dare against us ever again.
Yeah,
don't do the thing that Thomas Jefferson, one of our founders, says what must happen for a citizenship when they feel like their government has gone too far. That we must rebel. That's one of the founders. And they're saying, don't you even question us. If you do, we'll come after you with the full force of the government and then charge you with some process crimes. Think about that.
What about 2023 when you got arrested at the airport?
So I get arrested at the airport. So I'm flying back from Tennessee and land. And as I'm walking off the plane, this agent comes up, female agent. She's like, Mr. Massaquoi? I'm like, yeah. She's like, please come with us. You're under arrest. And I'm like, what? 2 agents, boom, either side of me, 2 men. Wow. The guy on the left was kind of shaking. He's like, you can tell he's like, waiting for action. That type of thing. Yeah, you just tell. Like, I played football. I've done martial arts ever since I was 17. I could tell. And at the same time, I could also tell he's a punk, because those types of guys are also punks. And so we're sitting there, and he's like, I'm like, what am I being arrested for? The guy's like, I was like, no, you tell me. Tell me what I'm being arrested for. And then the fourth guy's standing here. He's like, no stuff. He's like, the guy here goes, from J6. I go, I didn't do anything on J6. And then this guy is standing here. He's like, just don't talk about it. I go, he brought it up. I'm just messing with them in that sense. This guy was like, on this side was really chill. It was really calm. Guy in front's like, look, Siaka. He's like, look, we're trying not to embarrass you. I'm like, it's a little late. I'm on a tarmac. People getting off seeing this. He's like, look, we're trying to make it peaceful and calm. Let me just give you your stuff. I'll give it over to your wife. And then we're going, but you're going to have to spend a night in jail. You're being arrested, And I'm just like, for what? For what? What am I being arrested for? J6. What's the crime? He goes, we'll tell you later. So I get in the car. They take me over to Monterey Park Jail. In the car, I'm just like, it's the female who first came up to me, and then the guy who was on my right. And in the car, I'm just like railing. I'm like, this is bull, like, you guys shouldn't do this. I can't believe you move like this. You could have called me. I've sued the FBI for coming into my house back in 21. Anyway, a lawsuit was going on with that. Sued them for illegally spying. That lawsuit was filed that September. I'm like, you guys know who my lawyer is. You could at least reach out. I'm just railing. I go, but I know why you're doing it, for the headlines, just like you did when I got raided. I knew exactly why you were doing that. You wanted to get a little spark. Oh, look, Netflix actor was raided again. Now his Netflix actor arrested. Got him. I knew that's what it's for. Except you guys could have come here because this is wrong. And the guy goes, he turns, he goes, would you have really shown up? I go, I'm vice chair of the LA GOP. I've been living in my house for 8+ years now. My wife is pregnant. She's due soon. Where the hell am I going to go? Of course I'm going to show up. And then he said, well, we didn't want you to be prepared. That's really what it was.
Prepared for what?
Exactly. I don't know. I have one, well, I don't want to say how many guns because, people mess with you, but I'm not sitting here with an armory. You know what I mean? It's not like
no one's going to mess with the FBI. If you don't have like artillery.
Yeah. Like, what are you going to do?
Like, bam, bam, you're done.
So it's like I'm sitting there. I mean, you guys, they also have 4 airport police there. I'm like, I'm not going to do anything crazy. What? Are you guys stupid? I have something to live for. I'm not part of the death cult. I'm not going to go for death first. I'm going to go for life because that's what God wants us to be. You know what I mean?
You told that?
No, but that's what I'm telling you here. But what I did tell him, we get to the jail, and I'm sitting there in one of the cells as they're getting ready to do the process and all that stuff. And he comes with the paper. He goes, okay, this is what you're charged for with. And he's like, this, blah, 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 misdemeanor. I'm like, y'all did all this for misdemeanors? And he's like, well, that's just how they have us do, man. We're just doing our jobs. I'm like, yeah, so were the Nazis. And so then I'm rambling on as I go. I'm like, well, you know what? God saved my life. And I start talking about God in some way. And we're like, God saved my life. And I turned, I was like, you guys religious? And the woman's like, oh, no, I'm not. And the guy's like, yeah, I'm a Catholic. And I'm like, oh. I was like, so are you like most Catholics or have you read the Bible? And he's like,
oh, man.
he goes, oh, come on, man. I'm like, oh, I mean, have you read the Bible? He goes, no. I go, well, what do you mean? You come on, man. Like that's.
He really said that.
Yeah. Yeah, he was like, no. I was like, well, you should get in it, man. I was like, start with Romans 1 or start with Romans. And if you don't see that this is where we are now, then I can't help you. And then then I go back to Matthew and read all the way through. And it was beautiful, though, because that night after I got put in my jumpsuit, I was in the jail cells all by myself because there was really no one there except for the jailer and one other drunk guy in a whole nother cell. And I do a little workout to get me tired, and I do the Lord's Prayer over and over. And when I was doing so loud, the jailer actually closed the door that led into the jail, to that jail area. And she comes back in later. She's like, hey, do you want anything to read? I was like, a Bible if you got it. And she's like, we'll see. She came back with the Bible and fell asleep reading the Bible that night in jail. I was like, all right, God's looking after me. And like, I'm going to just lean into you, especially in these hard times, because what else can I do? I'm not Superman. I can't rip the doors open myself. It's like, it's going to be up on you, Lord.
But they arrested you just for the same thing that they raided you in 2021.
Well, they didn't say when they raided me they were raiding me for any of those things.
Yeah, but 2 years have passed. 2.5 years.
2.5 years passed. So they had 2.5 years with my equipment, with my stuff, probably listening and following and all this stuff. Every time I flew, knew exactly where I was. Nothing.
They're doing this for you to have the disturbia.
Exactly.
You to be paranoid. Like,
yeah, but I was like,
if this didn't happen yesterday, it's not going to happen in 2 years. Yeah. But you know that it can happen in 5 years.
Yes. And the thing that was happening was I was flourishing. All right, I went from being canceled from Hollywood to then starting to do jobs, working with Babylon Bee, and we're doing things like California Moved to Texas, which gets like 50 million views. I started doing jobs with Daily Wire. Like I'm doing jobs and trying to build my career back up. I'm flourishing. I'm not sitting there hiding in the corner afraid. Start to flourish. And their arrest warrant was issued on November 15th. They waited 2 weeks to serve me when I was getting off that plane so they could have the biggest splash so people could see it.
But can you imagine how many force do they have? They wait for 2 weeks. They know exactly where you are. They go to the airport.
They wait till I left and then came. I'm so dangerous. They let me fly away, then got me when I flew back. And every single one of the times of the arrest and the raid, they get bonuses. That's why a lot of these guys do it.
No way.
Oh, yeah. That's budget. So then the budget that goes to Congress and like, look, our budget. We have so many operations. We need more money. Oh, okay, here you go.
That's scary.
Yeah.
Were you scared?
No, because I don't fear them. They've already come and done what they're going to do. And the only other thing is death. And I've already died to the Lord. So I don't fear any man. It is what it is. You know what I mean? Like I trust Jesus. I've watched him from my hopeless, drunk life where I thought I didn't deserve anything to the government coming after me. It's like, what am I going to be afraid of them for? Like at one point I was like, I'm going to go into a liquor store with a knife. And I was so down that I was like, I'll let the cops come and rush a cop so he can kill me because I don't have enough guts to stab myself. That's where I was at one point in my life.
Why?
Because I was a drunk.
Yeah, but why? Why were you drinking?
Depressed. I was just depressed.
Because of what?
Life wasn't going the way I wanted it to go. I wanted it to go. I thought it should be this way. It wasn't because the world was against me. I was believing the lie of the enemy. So much so that I even thought about that. Now to know the truth of the Lord, I'm going to be afraid of them. I feel sorry for them because they need their money for their sense of purpose. They need to start to go after Trump supporters to feel like they accomplished something. I just need to be obedient to the Lord. I just need to read his words and trust him and be not afraid. Yeah. I wouldn't be following his command if I was afraid of him. He saved my life too many times. And man, in jail, the next day when they were taking me to process at the marshal's office, when they put me in the jail cell, I was by myself. I dropped on my knees right away, prayed. Thank you, Lord. Watch over me, watch over Charlotte, watch over my family. They put me back in my regular clothes, which happened to be this sweater that had a cross here that said Jesus saved on the back, right? And sweatpants. I was still in like what I was wearing from the airport. Then I go into the room to speak to my lawyer who wasn't there. It was like 11 o'clock. He wasn't there because he was flying from Florida, red eye. So I was talking to the clerk to see if she was asking me if I made enough money to see where my bail could be set. Then I'm just kind of sitting there and I knock on the door and the marshal comes by. I was like, yeah, I'm done. He's like, all right, give me a second. We're understaffed. I'm like, okay. So I'm just sitting there. Now they have me cuffed, wrist to my waist, to my ankles, like Hannibal Lecter. So I'm everywhere I go, I'm shuffling around. Then my lawyer busts in. Hey, I'm like, oh man, Larry, I didn't think you were gonna make it. And he's like, yeah, I'm here. He's like, I'd let you know we got a lawyer for California. You're gonna be fine. We're gonna take care of you and get back to your wife tonight. I'm like, oh, thank you so much. I'm being all emotional. He leaves. I fall to my knees, brother, and as much as I can, put my hands up and I just sing. There's a song by Brandon Lake called Gratitude. And he goes, so I throw up my hands and I praise you again and again because all of that I have is a hallelujah. Hallelujah. That's it. Then we were letting us out. And when you go out, you put your face towards the wall, towards the wall, just chilling. I look over. There's this dude comes out. He's like 6'2" white guy, right? He has like tattoos from like, you see some in here, but he grew his hair out, neck down. I'm like, thick dude. If it was a prison movie and they're like, the Nazis are over there, he would be one of them, right? Cast in that. I was like, oh, geez. I was like, all right, just, hey, man, you're not here to prove nothing to nobody. Just in my head, I'm like, just be cool. So then we turn and they're going to take us to the courthouse. So we have to go to an elevator, go in a van and go over. So as we turn to walk, the guy's like, I hear, hey, man, nice shirt. I'm like, with a shirt that has Jesus saved on the back. I go, oh, well, Jesus saved my life and blah, 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 Bible. And I'm reading and my wife and I, da, 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 da. And he's like, oh, yeah, I'm reading the Bible. So we start talking. So it's like 5 of us are going. 2 of us are talking about God. We have 5 of us with two guards there. We're in the elevator talking about God. We get in the van. One of the other prisoners, he starts chiming about God. We start talking about books and everything. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. So it's like we're glorifying the Lord, talking about like you get deeper and this is to get you past these points and that point since you're in your struggle. We get into the courthouse and we're walking to find the courtroom that we're going to be in. We get there. As we're going through, I knew my wife and my lawyer's going to be there. We walk in and I'm the last guy. Everyone is the first 4 guys going, I'm the last guy. Come in and shuffle. I look over. I have like 15 people from church show up. Got another handful from like the LA GOP. And I don't even see my wife because it was so packed. I was like, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness. I'm like, just keep it together, like get through. Go back into the other side and they put you in a holding cell until you're called out. So we're in that holding cell just talking. And that same big guy at one point before we're getting started, he bumps me. He's like, hey, man, can you pray for us real quick?
No way.
Yeah. I'm like, you, me? He's like, yeah. I'm like, all right. So for everyone in there, we start praying and, I start praying and I'm like, I finish it up with, whether we are released, we get released or we're still in here, we know as long as we trust in Jesus Christ, we'll be okay. Amen. And then the first guy starts going. He comes back. He's like, wow, she's unreasonable. The judge, she's a bee. Then the second guy, third guy. Everyone's saying the same thing. The judge. Everyone's saying she's terrible. The guy who I talked to, the big white guy, he was like, yeah, hopefully I can get out. This is my parole hearing, but I stabbed a guy last year, so I don't know. I've been in jail, prison for 18 years. I'm with guys for 18 years, been in it for 10. That's who I'm standing around. He's asking me to pray for the group. So it was my turn. And the guy goes, everyone's like, man, we hope you get out, bro. Thumbs up. We hope you get out. Like that was the only one they were excited that I hope I got out. So I go and I'm shuffling through. I open the door. I'm like, here we go. I open the door. And everyone there stands up. Boom. And attention for me. I'm just like, the pastor who married us buttoned up like, let's go. I got your back. My wife's in her all black dress with a little belly out. She has my wedding ring on her necklace, a cross necklace that her godmother gave her that she hadn't taken off since before I met her. She's holding her Bible. I walk up and she's like, let's go. And I'm just like, I give her a kiss, I turn around and face that. And I could, people stayed standing for a while and I could feel their support on me, bro. Then we go through the process. The magistrate's confused that, wait, misdemeanors, wait, probation, misdemeanors. Why that doesn't even make sense. The DA's like, I don't know what's going on. And then you have the probation be like, all right, we're going to do this and this. And this so worked out where they have simple things that I have to check in on. Nothing like every time I fly, I have to let them know where I'm going and give them like the information. I can't leave LA County without their letting them know what's going on. If I want to move anywhere, I got to petition the court. If I want to fly internationally, I got to petition. I had to surrender my passport, so I can't go anywhere.
For how many years?
During this time, while we're going through the case. And so that's so I could stay here instead of having to go to DC and wait in DC for in jail for them to do anything. So the judge grants me my release. I leave, getting ready to thinking I'm done. Let me tell you how the Lord continued to work. So I left. I was supposed to sign a piece of paper, and the DA is supposed to sign a piece of paper. Neither of us did. It was a Friday. Court's closing in 10 minutes. So they needed me to bring back. They're like, oh, he's gone. Too late. You're going to have to come back on Tuesday because that Monday was a holiday. And they're doing this to a lot of other people they arrested where they get them on a Thursday or Friday, and then they have them stuck for the weekend in jail. That's part of the punishment. Right? Oh, you stood up, you're going to spend some time in jail. So one of the women who was there, she worked security at our church. Her name's Tish. She actually named her little sports car after me. She goes, I'll get him, and takes off to look for the DA. Finds him about to get in his car on his phone, about to leave. She grabs him, boom, brings him back. Mind you, I'm sitting in the van underneath the jailhouse being like, let's go. I'm ready to go. Thank you. God got me out of here. Let's go. Stressing out like, why is what's taking so long? She runs, grabs him. He's about to leave, brings him back. The clerk lets my lawyer sign in my behalf. Then boom, it's going. All of a sudden I see a guy come back. He's with papers. Like, oh, sorry for the delay. Let's go. No one says anything to me. I get processed. We go back. I get processed out, and I'm about to leave. I go to the lobby, and I just see my wife and my lawyer, and I'm like, oh, give her love and give him a good handshake. And we go outside, and everyone who was there start coming from one end, the other. The car pulls up. Who's going to pick us up? Everyone just gathers around me. Big hug. We do a prayer. We're crying and stuff, and get in the car. And if we hadn't, the Lord was so with us that Charlotte was not by herself until I returned. Where initially we were just going to take an Uber home from the airport, and she would have been by herself, spinning out, pregnant lady, 7 months pregnant, spinning out about what's going on with her husband. But God had her protected, just like he had me protected. And there's a story in the Bible about Paul and I think Timothy. They were just praising God in the jail, and the doors swung wide open.
Amen.
I had it happen. It's pretty wild. Pretty wild stuff. So am I afraid of them?
So where are you at right now?
So now we did our motion. Well, we motioned we pled not guilty. And we filed our motion of selective prosecution and of what I told you about that video earlier about talking about, well, they didn't let us in and they were stopping us. That was also facts of the case. So we had 2 motions to dismiss. Our motion to dismiss based on selective prosecution now, that's a very interesting one because in 2020, during the Summer of Love, when BLM came and they spray painted in DC, Black Lives Matter, there's an ordinance that said you can't spray paint and graffiti. The mayor told the cops to stand down. 2 weeks later, a pro-life Christian conservative group came. And they did the same thing? Yeah, they did the same thing, but with watercolor chalk that you can actually wash off with the rain. They got arrested. Fast forward to August of last year, the appellate court rules, you can't do that. It's called the Frederick Douglass ruling. You can't do that. You can't treat one group differently than the other, which, of course, they did. So what we did, and 3 years later. That's right, not 2, 3. So a lot of people who tried to file selective prosecution before were going Trump supporters during the Capitol and Black Lives Matter. The issue with that was they weren't on the restricted grounds. Black Lives Matter was running around everywhere else. They didn't go at the White House. They didn't go on the Capitol. But you know who did? The Hamas protesters. They shut down the Capitol. We have the numbers now. Only about a handful that were there got held for a little bit and give $50 tickets and then sent. None of them were charged like I was.
They're not going to pay the $50.
If they do. But they weren't even charged like I was. Or many of January 6th for the same thing. Same thing with the Kavanaugh protesters who came in to shut things down. A few of them were held, $50 fine, and then left. So right there, you see two different groups being treated differently, doing this exact same thing. Then you have Joe Biden's own words. When that speech where he's standing behind the red, and all that stuff, they call it like the Darth Vader speech. He was,
State of the Union.
Right. He was like, this is going to be the death knell for MAGA. We're going to come and get each and every one of you. DOJ says about a week later, we're coming after everybody who was there, whether you're standing on the grass or not. They verbally themselves said we're selectively going after one group over the other. So we filed that based on the appellate court's decision saying you can't do that. So hopefully now the judge does the right thing. You know, I mean, it's the law.
Don't forget, rules are for thee, but not for me.
So we'll see. It's going to be interesting to see what moves the state still has to respond, which they have 2 weeks to respond. Pretty much, I think the end of this week or something, they can respond on that. And we'll see what they say. I'll be surprised, but one of I think the best thing about my case is with a little notoriety, I've been able to raise money in order to defend myself.
$150,000.
Well, more than that. We got up to 175. And
did you raise that money?
So far, yeah.
Oh, wow.
We still need to get about 210 to 250 just to make sure we get over the finish line. So I know. But the beautiful thing about this case is that I think we have legs here. Right. And so if we're able to, with this filing, get is dismissed or charges dropped, others can use this.
Yeah, that's a precedent.
Exactly. So, you know, I always like to say if people want to support, they can go to defendsiaka.com. That's defend, SIAKA.com. And it's not just for me. It is for other people. Other people that people won't know. The grandma in Wyoming that got snatched, who? No one knows her. No one knows these other people. But fortunate enough, because I was able to be in part of projects that brought joy to others, people want to help. And that help is going to ultimately not just me, which is to me a beautiful thing. That's when you ask if I'm afraid, I look at this thing and it's like it can help so many people. I'll be afraid not to help. You know? And my wife was right there going, yo, you got to do this. Don't ever plead for anything. That's our legacy. That's your son's legacy. How can I say I committed a crime that I didn't commit? You know? And having my wife there backing me up, seeing that little boy now that I have, I can tell him, stand up for truth, except for when they really show up. Like, what? And I can go back to my grandfather back in Liberia, where my family's from, who's the main pastor of the main church. My mom just told me this 2 years ago, that he used to speak about politics from the pulpit. The running regime at the time came and told him, stop talking about it. He said no. 2 weeks later, they murdered him in a car crash. So this has been part of my family, that the government will come after, but they stand boldly. I'm just doing what it's in my blood, really.
Amen.